Ladies and gentlemen, we are back at it again with another bit of a Game Awards update. And while we all know that Wuthering Waves is in competition with basically just Uma Musume for the Mobile Game of the Year category, there is another award that we need to talk about over here. A lot of individuals notice the absence of incredible Hoyoverse games, right? Like Honkai Star Rail with its amazing 3.7 spending event and its $300 bow skin. Genshin Impact with its fantastic UGC added in version 6.1, huge revolutionary updates to child predation all over the gacha community with more access to young children for 40-year-old men across the globe pretending to be anime characters. And then we're gonna have none other than Zenless Zone Zero coming in with fantastic announcements about the fact that they are not going to have voice actors after the voice actor strike is ended because they can't manage the workflow of their fucking projects and are doing last-minute story rewrites as a billion-dollar company. Those incredible titles that have accomplished amazing things this year have unfortunately not been featured for that Mobile Game of the Year award. But don't worry. There's another one, the player's voice, where disgruntled Hoyo enjoyers have the opportunity to get a one-up on everybody else in the space, guys. And what I wanted to do was actually start talking about, well, a little bit about what we see going on over here, because this might be, ladies and gentlemen, where the actual war begins. Because what do you see over here? What do you see highlighted on my screen, ladies and gentlemen? I see Genshin Impacto. And what do I see at the bottom? Wuthering Waveso. So you can probably imagine how this discussion is going to go down. I think it's pretty clear that the Hoyoverse players decided to, like, pool in, you know, kind of like how sometimes people pool in to win a lottery. I think they pooled in to get Genshin Impact in this voting. And the one thing that I'm incredibly surprised by, guys, is the fact that there aren't any other Hoyo games in here. There's no Honkai Star Rail. There's no Zenless Zone Zero. It's only Genshin. And that does kind of like make you wonder, what the fuck is actually going on over here? Where are those games? Why is it only Genshin? And I think the realization that a lot of individuals might have had is that the reputation of titles like ZZZ and the reputation of titles like Honkai Star Rail, I'm not gonna lie, I think they're possibly, potentially just in the mud. I don't really know, right? And this is the part that really confuses me. I'm thinking about this from like the normie perspective of, I'm pretending I'm fucking Jeff Keighley, just middle-aged white dude. I just like looking at all these fucking games and I'm like, you know, this looks pretty good, right? Stuff only really starts getting like bad when you start looking at like the meta, you start looking at the balancing, you start taking a look at the predatory nature of the game. But like at a baseline, you know, if I'm just like Jeff Keighley walking around, I'm just like looking at shit, I'd be like, oh, like these games look solid, bro. Like production quality, like look at that tree. Like, bro, look at that. Bro, look at this. Look at that, man. I would just be of the mindset that like these are high quality games. And my take over here is, has the reputation of this company actually undertaken a massive amount of damage? And I think the answer potentially actually has to be yes. Because I don't really even know how, like, you have fucking Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. You still got fucking, you got Doom the Dark Ages, Sonic Racing Crossworlds, but you can't get a fucking Zenless Zone Zero or a Honkai Star Rail on here? You got fucking Donkey Kong Bonanza? This is my personal take on the matter. I feel like the exclusion of a title like Zenless Zone Zero and the exclusion of a title like Honkai Star Rail from even being slightly recognized on these awards over here has to again be one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen from Hoyoverse. You even have games like Warframe on here that are like 20 fucking years old. This might mean that there's just no EN player base for these games either. This might be the reality. And this is what I think is going on. The absurdly predatory nature of Honkai Star Rail and the absurdly predatory power creep of Zenless Zone Zero has actually effectively butchered this game's EN player base. I think they butchered it with the release of Honkai Star Rail 3.2, global passives, Siren, all of that Giga Predatoriness. I think that was like the killing blow to HSR's global player base, and then it's just been dripping and bleeding out ever since. And this is just like another solid hit over here that's doing some massive fucking damage. 3 spending events in the scope of 1 year. And I feel like Global really doesn't like spending events. They had one for HSR's Archer Light Cone for the Fate collab. They had one over here for Siren, and then another one, or sorry, for Casterus. Sorry, they're just both like white, purple haired, pink dresses. They're actually very similar. So you had Casterus over here for one of them, then you had Siren for the other spending event. So that's 3 in 7 months. The Siren one was in fucking April. This is all happening. These spending events, this absolute greed, this money grubbing, while the US is currently in a recession. Yeah, the number of jobless individuals over the United States who are like falling behind on mortgage, credit card payments, so on and so forth, because they have no fucking money, is crazy. And guess what, guys? I think this game is now actually legitimately unplayable if you don't have fucking money. Because how are you going to do anything in the game when you need all the new characters to do anything? It's pay to play for the game. It's free to play for the story. That's how I described Honkai Star Rail. And it's not surprising at all that people just hate this fucking game now and don't want to vote it anywhere. Because guess what, guys? It's a game that actually has a lot of players. But I don't think a lot of them are in the US anymore. And so, I don't think anyone is bringing this up as like anything that deserves the player's voice. Now, let's go and talk about another absentee, Zenless Zone Zero. And this game over here has been one that I've seen mismanaged obscenely. The amount of power creep that's been in this game and the amount of hidden nerfs, balancing updates to fix the problems that their own devs introduced is insane. 6 months into the release of the game, they released Hoshimi Miyabi. And this character, the game is still reeling from the balance implications of her release, where ice is still a fucked element because every ice enemy has to be designed in a way where like she can't obliterate it because she's so fucking broken. And then you're now just in a situation where they added hidden nerfs to anomaly characters behind the scenes, made entire rosters absolutely useless against the entire endgame because they're still trying to balance out the errors that they made. And then in their most recent release with Dialin, this character does, she's a stun agent. She does what every other limited stun agent does. She takes all of their unique strengths, the highlights of their kit, and she does all of them at once. She power crept Ju Fu Fu, an Impact character that was released 5 months before her. She does triple of what her main strength is and more damage buffs on top of it. And so that's just blatant, disgusting power creep from this perspective as well. And that's just been what the game is. They release broken anomaly units, then they baseline nerf anomaly across the entire game. Makes all those pulls, all that investment, useless. Now they're giga shilling Rupture. They're probably going to balance the game out to make Rupture useless later. That's just what these guys do. They've decided, hey, it's not enough to make limited characters. It's not enough to have 50-50s. It's not enough for these things. We're going to make all the old units that you pulled fucking worthless. All of them. Because guess what, guys? Imagine being a Hugo owner and you can't play Hugo. And the funny thing is that they're rerunning this useless piece of shit. They power crept this guy out of the meta because Miyabi was too strong, and so they fucked all the ice enemies, the ice weak enemies, and he can't even be used. He can't even be used. It's insane how they managed to balance out any fun from this game because of their own fucking mistakes. And with that perspective, seeing how cooked the end game is, how little fun people are having, and the massive fall off in players that this game has fucking had. Massive fall off over here, as you can see. And then, hey, you'll see a similar thing for Honkai Star Rail as well. It's not too surprising at all when you factor in all these numbers. Why nobody wants to play these games or vote these games anywhere. Because so many people literally fucking hate these games now. Because they have essentially betrayed the entire goddamn player base. I was one of them. I'm a person that has quit both Zenless Zone Zero and Honkai Star Rail. I quit HSR during Pentaconi because there was too much dialogue, and I didn't want to waste my time with this shit anymore. And then I quit Zenless Zone Zero in 2.1 because the story was the worst thing I've ever heard. And don't worry, they're making it worse. I quit when the story is bad, and don't worry, they're making it worse. They're always pushing the envelope over here, right? And it's just, when you factor in all these things, it's starting to make a lot more sense now. Why those titles that definitely have a smaller player base than Genshin Impact aren't on this Player's Voice Award. But don't worry, we've got some things to say ourselves when it comes to Genshin Impact. And all I'm going to say is, this is the power of COVID. This is all COVID. And what this is the existing player base during the player spike back in 2020 still retaining some level of benefit. Because Genshin is just top of mind for a lot of individuals. Genshin is COVID for a lot of individuals. And they'll always be able to reference it in the back of their mind. And it'll always be top of mind when they think of gacha games, right? And when you consider the fact that Genshin literally is on one of the most disgusting updates we've ever seen, where they added in Millie Astra Wonderland, the worst gameplay mode and the worst feature in the history of the game, that is what they added in over here in 6.1 in recent memory, with a paid gacha that is only paid. Or you got to get some sweaty 40-year-old man to pay for it for you because you're pretending to be an e-girl, but you're also like a 40-year-old man as well. So it's just a bunch of 40-year-old men scamming each other out of skins, pretending to be each other's girlfriends. That's what they added to the game in 6.1. This is on top of the game entering the most predatory cycle of its development. All I need to do is show you guys Genshin 5.3. This was, ladies and gentlemen, the start of the end. And that was the start of 2025. This was the start of the end. All you need to do is look at the banners. Mavawika, Sitlali, two best-in-slot partners. When you combine these two together, they dealt 50% more damage than any other team in the game. Literally, on their release on January 1st, 2025, this was the start of the most rampant power creep Genshin has ever seen. They're both on the same banner. And this is also during Lantern Rite. Lantern Rite is where they give out free pulls to players. They gave out 20 free pulls this year. All those free pulls were given after the double banner ended. So essentially, all you got to do was spend your 20 pulls for Lantern Rite on the reruns. So yeah, these two were best in slots. They dealt the most damage in the game. Both their banners were at the same time. Same thing with their weapon. This is how Genshin started off the year. This is how Genshin started 2025, guys. With the most predatory banner lineup, the worst rewards scheduling, the most disgusting thing I've ever fucking seen. This alone should have been enough for players to be like, fuck this game, fuck this company, fuck these individuals who are in charge of just being bastards like this. This should have been enough. But the game just has a massive player base. And this is what I mean by COVID. The game built up a massive player base. And so no matter what kind of disgusting, abhorrent shit these developers do when it comes to monetization, balance, power creep, currently their end game requires you. If you don't have nod cry units, you cannot do this game's end game. That's what it is. The game's end game has had so many new features added where essentially if you don't have all the new playable units, you can't play anymore. You won't clear. And that's the entire end game for the game. And it's sort of just like you see all these things that are clearly just ruining the game for a majority of players, but they are improving some things like the story. But it's not enough from the perspective of, oh, wow, this game is dramatically getting better. It's just all of that existing player base. When people see a game that has a lot of players, they want to play it too because nobody wants to play a dead game. And Genshin just had the most players. And so people go to it, not because it's a good game or because it's getting good updates. They're just going to it because they want to play a game that a lot of other people are playing. That's one of the main appeals. That's one of the main draws of Genshin Impact. It's that a lot of other people are playing it. And that's what I think is driving up this score. Because you look at all the shit that they're adding to the game. Guys, the UGC has only made the game worse. Most people view this as just 40 additional gigabytes of storage space that is just now wasted on their phone or now on their computer. The game would be better for a huge majority of players if this was just removed from the game. Hoyoverse's main way of improving their titles is to remove things from them. That's why the Sweebian Temple in ZZZ, that's why that shit is getting automated. That's why ZZZ's main quality of life update was removing the TVs. That's why Genshin's main quality of life for version 6.2 was removing the need to, like, open up your adventurer's guidebook before talking to Catherine to claim your encounter points rewards. It's removing things from the game. That is their quality of life over at Hoyoverse. And when you think about it that way, is it really surprising at all that this company has such pathetic representation on the other side of the globe? Not that much to me. And hopefully, we were able to break down today in detail why there's only one game you're seeing on the screen over here, and why you're probably never gonna see any other Hoyo title ever again. The reputation is, without a doubt, it's completely ruined. So yeah, that'll be it for this one. Let me know what you all thought. Peace out.